Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Fitness Experiment Podcast, where Jesse and I talk all things fitness, health, nutrition, performance, not only on a scientific level, but also from an experimental perspective. I'm Chet Binning of Brain Ignition, co-hosted by Jesse Sheriff of Sheriff's Performance Academy. So at the time of this recording, Jesse is away competing once again at the International Functional Fitness World Championships. So today, I guess I will be your host. In today's episode, Jesse and I really dig into the motivation on how he became the CrossFit coach that he is. So we discuss how this came to be, his life experiences that led him to this. We also talk about the differences between individual and team mindset when you're competing, but also fitnessing in the gym. And we then dig into the West London CrossFit testing. So how Jesse comes up with this programming, what his methods are, who it's designed for, why he designs it this way. And throughout this episode, you'll hear Jesse talk a lot more about kind of the greater details of fitness. So kind of why it's important for life development, what it does to us on the inside. It's about much more than just the six-pack, and we talk about a lot of this and more. So before we get started, this week's weekly biohack. We're going to be bringing you this at the start of every single podcast. It might be one quick tip to improve your deadlift, one tip to improve your workout nutrition, all types of things. So for today, my weekly biohack, and it's about getting sun exposure in the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, if you see that the sun is out, get out there as quick as possible. Ideally, you would get out there with as minimal clothing as possible. Forget about your neighbor. If they see you showing a little bit of skin, a little bit of butt cheek, that's no problem. Get out there. If you get out there and just look directly into the sun, research has shown that just getting that early morning sun exposure really regulates your circadian rhythm for that entire day. So this is important because it controls when we produce particular hormones. This is going to control when you feel hungry, when you feel energized, when you feel sleepy. So essentially getting out there early in the morning is going to regulate this so that all these things happen at the appropriate time. And in fact, if you get out there first thing in the morning and look directly into the sun, for whatever reason, during the first few hours of the day, you can absorb those rays that the sun is emitting through your eyes. Again, this is a survival mechanism. It's in place at normal times of the day. You cannot look at the sun. You probably should not look at the sun, but first thing in the morning, get out there with minimal cover up, show your skin, look at the sun, set that circadian rhythm for the day. All right, now without further ado, we're going to jump right in. You'll hear Jesse talking about his experience at the recent Granite Games CrossFit competition. Enjoy. So Jesse just got back from Granite Games. Maybe we'll go over this before we get into the testing stuff. So
yeah.
You're feeling a little run down, are you?
Yeah, I got the CrossFit hangover this week. I don't know, a competition is what it is, I guess, but you don't really realize the magnitude and like the impact that CrossFit has until you go to something that's that big.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I had never been to Granite Games. It was my first time. Two of my other teammates, Nick and Lacey, it was their first time at Granite Games, and then Charlie, it was her second time. She was there last year as an individual.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So she was kind of like our guide. She knew where the warm-up area was. She knew where the check-in was. She
Follow me, kid.
That's right, yeah. She was a mother goose the whole weekend. So it's nice to have somebody who's familiar with everything, because when you get there, it's super overwhelming. There's people everywhere. Granite Games, for those of you who have no idea what that is, let's talk about that.
Let's do that. I don't know much about it either, to be honest. I just know the name of it.
Yeah, it's in St. Cloud, Minnesota. It's a
happening town.
Yeah, it was pretty much taken over by Granite Games. It was pretty cool. It is, I would say, top 3 in terms of CrossFit competitions in North America in terms of just overall size and competition level. I would say it's close to Wadapalooza and definitely not as competitive as the CrossFit Games, right? In the pro division, there was a few CrossFit Games athletes that were competing, but I mean, you're not seeing you're not seeing Matt Fraser there, right? It's kind of like it's a really competitive and good competition for people that are regionals level or game on the bubble for games. But I feel like if you finish like top 5 at Granite Games, it's time for you to kind of move on to something else. That's all going to change next year because when we were there, they announced that it's going to be a sanctioned event for the CrossFit season next year, which will completely change the landscape. Because Granite Games, as it is right now, we got pro individuals, male, female. And then we got teams of 3 pro, RX, intermediate, scaled. Mm-hmm. And then we have where we were competing, which is the community teams, which is co-ed. Community teams makes it sound like anybody can kind of go.
That name was a little strange too.
You do have to qualify to go, although it sounds like you can just kind of sign up.
Kind of reminded me of I always relate everything to hockey, and it was like 12 and 13-year-olds who didn't make the travel team, so they play house team. That was just what the name was like.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, you don't really know what to expect in terms of competition, but event 1, I look to my right, and there's a guy with CrossFit Games shorts on, and not the shorts that you buy when you go to CrossFit Games as a spectator. He had an athlete number and everything. So I was like, oh damn, it's real. So that was a bit of a rude awakening because, I mean, I love fitness and CrossFit, and competing is just a secondary thing that just kind of happened. It was never my intention to be competitive in CrossFit. It's just, I mean, we'll get into that in this podcast for sure. I don't want to go on a tangent right away, but it's just something that kind of happened for me, which is exciting. It's just hard for me sometimes to get myself pumped up and to that, okay, I'm going to try and win this when that was never my goal in the first place. It's it's a weird thing. You find yourself in that position and it's not really what you were looking to do, but you're there.
That's right. Yeah.
It's hard to describe.
No, that's a good leeway though. You said that you never really envisioned yourself competing. So when was your first competition? Because I mean, for me personally, I've only known you for a year. So I don't know anyone other than, Jesse competing high level CrossFit. But so when did you first get into this? When was your first competition?
Yeah. All right. So started CrossFit in the fall of 2013. I started at the gym that we're at now. So I started at West London CrossFit. At the time, I was a personal trainer at Good Life, doing the thing there. I've kind of known my whole life that coach, if somebody were to ask me, Jesse, what do you do? I was I'm a coach. I never really thought that it would be a CrossFit coach, but I've been coaching my whole life. It's really all I've done. I started coaching for the first time when I was 12, and it was I was teaching karate.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is definitely going to come up later. Someone told me this the other day, but I'll wait a minute.
All right. So my dad owned a karate school in Dorchester, Ontario. It was a small family karate center. It wasn't competitive in any way. It was more about teaching kids and teaching adults some basic self-defense strategies, and more or less just try to instill some sort of discipline and respect.
Yep. As
the focus. I was kind of for my dad, that was clearly the big thing for him was just the discipline side of things and just helping kids be more coachable. That way they can learn a little bit better, because we know how structured life is, right? It's right from school. It's bell rings, line up, wait. So we know the drill. It's it's very structured and everything. So if you have whether or not you buy into that system or not, I do not at all. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't do well in that environment. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, is because if I had to punch in, punch out, I would go completely bonkers. But you have to learn how to adapt to that environment. So that was kind of what the goal was for the school. So, I mean, being a 12-year-old kid teaching adults how to do self-defense stuff. You kind of gotta learn how to, carry yourself and communicate with people in a way that you can get the respect of people that are that much older than you, right? Like I'm teaching 40, 50-year-old people, or I'm teaching the hardest group for me was like that 16 to 18 age group because I'm 12. And they're like, come on, man. I'm not going to seriously. Like, so it was, you learn quickly that people don't give a shit what you have to say. What they really care about is what you do. So that was I learned that early, and that's kind of what I've carried all the way through. So from karate, and then I did some like dryland coaching for some hockey teams when I was a little bit younger. Being in Dorchester, it's a big hockey community. That's what a lot of the kids did. So I lead that. On all the sports teams that I played on, I was always not a good player. I was like kind of there, right? Like I was that guy in hockey. I was a goalie, so like I made the team, but I was always backup. You know what I mean? Like I was never the starter. But that gave me like a different role, and that is more of like a support and being more a part of the team rather than like a star of the team. From that stuff, just went to Fanshawe for fitness and health promotion. That program's come a long way since I was there. I've been talking with the professors now, and like it's come a really long way. When I was there, it was a stepping stone, really. Then got the Good Life. Good Life was fine until it wasn't, kind of like everything else, right? It's like I'm good here for now, and then it wasn't okay anymore. Started, my friend Callan Aldred was coaching at West London CrossFit. At the time, he's like, hey, man, you got to come and try this out. So I did some personal training stuff with him. That was in the fall of 2013. We're caught up. Okay. Fall 2013, starting CrossFit. Couldn't overhead squat a barbell. I was the same height I am now, which is 6'1"-ish and 165 pounds.
Oh, yes.
Right? So, like, weak is an understatement, right? Like, I'm pretty sure my 1 rep max back squat was like, I think Callan laughed at me, or if he didn't, he was like holding it in because it was not pretty. So I don't have that story where it's like, oh, I was an athlete. I played sports and I did athletic things, but I wouldn't say that I was like a high level athlete where I was like a high level football player or something and had experience in strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
I was a personal trainer who didn't know anything and came over, got introduced to CrossFit. And I mean, it's hard to describe. You can get it because you were at the gym, but to somebody who's listening and they've never been in a CrossFit gym before, it's really hard to describe the difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like
you don't know the difference until you've actually been there for a while and have experienced it, I think.
Yeah. And then you try and go back.
Yeah.
To something else, whether it be a school gym or a big box gym. It's like I can't explain it to you. You're gonna have to like try it to see.
Give it a shot.
But once I was there, I was obviously hooked. So through like 2013, I did the Open in 2014 right away. It was something that everybody at West London CrossFit was encouraging people to do, which I think is super important still, because it gives you a sense of community and belonging to the community, and you're a part of something that is on a global scale. It was pretty cool. Being somebody who was at that time maybe 4 months into CrossFit and just kind of go for it and do it, right? I don't really remember when my first competition was. I know it took me 2 or 3 years to even get to a point where I would be able to RX all the workouts in a competition. You know what I mean? Like there's a prerequisite level of strength and skill that's involved in order to compete in an RX division. So I think my first competition was the beach brawl in Port Stanley. And it was on a team. I think that was my first one. And I think that was 2016. I was with there's a big group of us that went down from the gym. That was the first thing. You go, there's no expectation of competing, just going and having fun. And I think the takeaway, the difference, if I look at the difference between me as an athlete in 2016 to me as an athlete now, I haven't changed my thinking. I haven't changed my approach. I haven't changed anything. It was just being consistent for 2 years, right? Like, I don't know how else to explain it, right? It's not.
This part's important, yeah. I think those people listening that don't know Jesse, I think what we need to do is wherever we make this episode available, I think we need to post a pre-CrossFit Jesse picture, put it side by side by a current Jesse CrossFit picture, because just seeing that, I think, is totally worth it and gives a lot of perspective to this. Because people see they see high-level athletes and they just think that that's the way they are. That's the way they've always been. They don't see that work that goes into it. Yeah. But this is like a great example, because Jesse was kind of one of those, it's your skinny friend who is just, no matter what they do, no matter how much they eat, always skinny. They always complain about how they can't gain weight and on. And I have a couple friends like this also. Know exactly who they are. Yeah. So I think it's a picture we're seeing, because although I haven't known him for a long time, I saw that picture shortly after meeting him, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I mean, the hard thing, it's a question I've been asked fairly frequently lately, I think, just because I've kind of made that little bit of a breakthrough, right? Like, I'm not a top level CrossFit athlete, but I've made a bit of a breakthrough into like the competitive realm. And once you kind of break through that, people want to know how you got there. And I don't have a secret other than you have to show up every day, and showing up not just to the gym, but just being like present and reflective on yourself and who you are and what you're doing. And I'm not just talking about the gym, right? Like, that was such a small part, but I think where people can get lost is if they're focused so much on a result, and being in the CrossFit where it's unknown and unknowable, right? We don't know what's going to happen, what the workouts are going to be, how many there's going to be, what the movements are going to be. You don't know any of that stuff. So you're just so focused on like, I'm going to go to this competition, I'm going to come first. So like you lost. It's not going to happen, because once you get there and that doesn't happen, because it's probably not going to, because you're not that good, right? Somebody else is better than you in everything all the time. Yeah. That's what can be frustrating as a CrossFit competitor. It's like, you're not going to win every event. Matt Fraser didn't win every event.
That's right.
He's pretty good, right? Like he's pretty good, but he didn't win every event. So that can't be the expectation. But if you're focused on just having fun through the process and actually realizing what that process can do for you as a person, then I guess you just wake up and all of a sudden you can compete. I don't know how else to describe it, because that's honestly what happened. It's like you just show up and work out. You have fun. You're around people that are like you, interested in the same things. They understand what you're doing. There's a camaraderie because you understand how that other person feels and what they're going through. And then through consistency, you just find yourself in a position where you can be competitive.
So another thing I want to get into, we've talked before about kind of the differences between individual and team competition. So I've only done one competition myself. It was an individual competition, so I didn't really know about kind of the feelings of it beforehand, but I experienced a lot of that stuff. And through talking with you, talking with people like Lacey, other people who have competed a lot, you guys are on this kind of the same mindset where it's like this individual competition thing is really, really bizarre. It's like it's a love-hate relationship. It's like 5-10 minutes before an event, you're scared shitless. You don't want to do it. You know how much it's going to hurt. You're thinking about how good the competitors are. What if I'm, going to fail, not do my best, and on and on and on. And then you said that a lot of that goes away when competing on a team, which, I mean, I can imagine how that would work. You're with your friends, you're there for support, and you just don't really have the time to actually kind of hang on to those negative feelings and thoughts before the event. But so I'm interested to get your take on that. You've done lots of both. So just how do those compare?
Yeah. So let's start with like what that feeling is. What I think think that feeling is, and what I've been able to kind of discover for myself, is that feeling before is like insecurity. Because with the individual stuff, it's you, right? So the result is all you. And sometimes when we get super nervous about the events, it's our insecurities coming out. It's like, did I do enough? Did I do enough training, recovering, all that stuff, right? Am I good enough to be here? It puts you. This is what I love about competing that I didn't think that I would like. It makes you very vulnerable.
Yeah.
You could not be more vulnerable in any situation. And I discovered that this weekend. I know we were talking before I went to Granite Games. I have a completely different view on everything now, which is crazy because that's how fast it happens. So I'll talk about just like on the individual side first. That vulnerability, that's like, this is you. You're doing the exact same work as everybody else. There's no advantage to anybody. You're going to do the best that you can. And if that puts you in last place, then you're last place. If that puts you in first place, then that's what happened. But if you focus so much on the result that way, then things can get a lot more stressful. So again, it's like planning out events ahead of time so that you know exactly what you want to do. And then if you follow that game plan and everything goes as planned, then that's your success, right? Rather than focus on a place. Like placing is, if you get stuck in that.
Yeah, you really don't have much control over the place.
You don't. And that's what's so cool about this sport as an individual sport, right? It's, you have zero impact on the other athletes, right? It's not a contact sport, right? You can't drop kick somebody while they're doing a snatch, right? If they hit that snatch that's heavier than yours, they're stronger than you, they win that event. But if you PR your snatch and they still out-snatch you by 40 pounds, that has to be a success for you, right? It can't be like, oh, well, that guy snatched 325, right? It can't. And I only snatched 275, but it was a 10-pound PR in a competition. Like, that has to be your success. So having that complete vulnerability, and this is what I love about fitness as a whole, is that it matches up perfectly with my personal core values. And that's why I have fun with it every single day, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, and that's why I can do what I'm doing day in and day out, 7 days a week, and not get burnt out. To me, fitness is a perfect test every single day, and what you see is a result of three things. You see commitment, you see honesty, and you see a level of respect, right? Like, if you're committed, right, and you're honest, and you have integrity in what you're doing, then you're going to find success in whatever it is for you, whether that's being a competitive athlete, whether that's losing 20 pounds, whether that's trying to increase some other health marker. Those side effects are a result of those three things. And when I sit down and I write out my core values for my business and for myself, they match up well. And then I look at fitness and it hits all three every single time. There's not a time that it doesn't. And CrossFit creates an environment for that, right? Because you have friends that are coming to the gym at the same time. When you don't show up, they notice that you're not there, right? Yeah. So there's a commitment level there. Honestly, if you yell at a score in group class and everyone's like, bullshit, man, like, you automatically lose your credibility. Yeah. Nobody wants to be around you, and that's on you, right? So you have to be honest. And if you're not honest at that point in competition, when you suck ass at something that you said you were good at, yeah, right? Like, oh man, I can clean 350 pounds, and you go into competition and you hit like 275. Well, it was a bad day. He's like, no, it wasn't. You're a liar, right? And everybody knows that now, right? And then that integrity piece just kind of comes from both of those. I think it's just kind of a combination of the two. So that's what competition does for me. That's my long-winded answer. Now in a team, we were talking before I went to Granite Games, and I was like, oh yeah, team, it's so fun. I was so fucking nervous before every single event. I can't even, like, I was freaking out. And I thought it wasn't going to be a thing. I thought it was going to be fun.
Because you don't want to let the other people down.
Yeah. It's a whole other level of vulnerability, right?
That's right.
I think that's
But do you think once you get into the event and once you get it started, do you think that the mindset is different in team versus individual? Or because I mean, in a team, there is the fear of letting other people down, but at the same time, if I'm with a teammate who's encouraging me, and I know that I'm half I'm part of this team, whether or not we, are successful in our own way or whatnot. So when I have that teammate encouraging me, I find that kind of changes the mindset. Whereas individual, you're still on your own. You have that mindset, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. That's just being a human being, right? We do a lot better when we're with people,
right?
I think, right? Like we seek that in everything. We seek a partner for life. We seek it at work. We find people that we hang out with and get along with a little bit better. We're very tribe oriented as a whole, and it can change the entire approach and process in everything. It's knowing somebody's beside you doing the exact same thing for a common goal is a feeling that is super special. Yeah, it's super powerful. And I mean, you played hockey for a long time. That feeling in the dressing room before a game,
it's not different. It's the same. Yeah,
it's the exact same thing, right? Everybody, it's a nervous energy. It's an excited energy. Right. That doesn't make it good or bad, right? It's just an energy that you can feel in the room. And as the stakes get higher, that vibration increases, right? So up until this point, my team events have been like fun local things. This was my first experience at a team competition of this magnitude, and it's completely different. The vibrations in the whole building are on a whole other level. That there's people watching you. There's a crowd, right? Like you don't think about this stuff. You're going to do a clean and max out your clean, and you look, somebody you don't even know is cheering their head off for you, right? It's so cool. But you get the same thing. The teammates that are standing behind you are doing the exact same thing. They're clapping for you, whatever. In the last event, I remember from this weekend, Nick, the other male partner on the team, the workout had some rowing, partner deadlifts, and box jumps. After the partner deadlifts, kind of look around and everyone's looking a little bit tired. And Nick just starts screaming his head off like a crazy person telling us to hurry up. You hurry up, right? Yeah. Whereas if it was an individual competition, for me, not having that same level of commitment to like placing, like to me, competing isn't about winning. Some people it is, and that's why they win, right? At the end of the day, that's why I'm not winning events, right? Because I don't go into the event looking to win. Because if I was going into an event looking to win, that means the whole trail backwards is completely different, right? The commitment level day to day is a little bit higher. The experience is a little bit greater. The intensity is a little bit higher in training. It's different. It's different for sure. And you can see that at our gym, right? You see the different levels of competitors at the gym. You look at Dan, a regional competitor, he comes in and it's business, right? He's there. It's like a shift at work. Like he's here, he punches the clock, he does his work, he goes home. Yeah. It's not the same for me. And that's why Dan is at the level that he's at, because he has that level of commitment to his goal, which is winning and qualifying for something, right?
It's also worth noting, I think, that I've seen Dan absolutely crush himself in complete silence, no music at all, or even watching a hockey game on his laptop, which to me, like, that's saying something right there, because, I mean, music is, I kind of need that music, but the fact that he goes in there, like you said, he just gets down to business, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. It's super inspiring. And that's just another cool thing about CrossFit is that everybody that's at the gym is an athlete. We're just at different levels, and our goals are a little bit different. For Dan and for anybody that's at the level that Dan's at, the end goal for them is to win, whatever that is, right? Whatever competition is, a qualifier, whatever. For me, competing is more of an experience thing. So what I do for a living and what I'm most passionate about is coaching. And I think when I go to compete, in the back of my mind, whether it's conscious or not, I always reflect back to this afterwards. So I think it's a very subconscious thing that I can't shake, because that is my driving force and I can't change that. is that I want to experience what my athletes are going through so that I can better relate to them. So that when I'm planning out their year or their cycle or their process to whatever their end goal is, I can relate to them in each step of the way. It may not be to the same magnitude, right? I'll never know what it feels like to be, well, I guess I say this, but if you asked me in 2014, I probably would have said the same thing about Granite Games, but I'll never experience what it's like to be on the bubble qualifying for the CrossFit Games, right? Like Dan was this year, right? He's sitting in that spot. He's on the bubble qualifying for the CrossFit Games going into the final event of regionals. I will never understand what that feels like in theory. Again, I don't know anymore. Things just keep happening. Who knows? But in that moment, he came to me and asked me what he should do. And I had no fucking clue what he was experiencing and how that felt. But him coming to me is just showing that when you do stuff, whatever it is, people trust you a little bit more, right? If I believe that if Dan didn't see me in the gym day-to-day training, coaching, programming, all that stuff, he wouldn't have come to me in that moment.
Yeah,
right.
Totally
if he was in the gym and I was constantly telling him what to do, blah blah blah, talking a big game, cheering for him, clapping my hands, doing whatever, he'd be like, "Fuck this guy," right? Like he's a cheerleader. I don't care what he has to say. I don't respect him. I don't trust him. There's no way that he can relate to what I'm going through right now. But being a doer, right? And I think what people, a lot of coaches miss is that doing part, right? Like if you've never experienced it, then it's pretty tough for people to trust you. So for me, when I'm competing, that's whether I want it to be or not, that's what's going through my head all the time. And like analyzing everything, I'm planning everything out. And I'm doing that so I can be a better coach at the end.
Hello there. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. Very quick interruption in today's podcast. So in the near future, this halfway break is going to be for advertisements for our podcast sponsorships. But for today, I want to tell you guys about a very cool recent research study. You guys know I like research. I think you do too. So this study out of the University of California, they took 36 adults and they measured the blood flow in their brain using an fMRI, a functional magnetic resonance imaging. Now, they put these participants through 10 minutes of exercise, and they found that just these 10 minutes increased connectivity between regions of the brain important for memory processing, like the hippocampal dentate gyrus and other cortical areas. And indeed, this correlated with better performance in a memory task afterwards. So just 10 minutes is all it takes if you're sitting there debating, thinking about whether or not you have enough time for some fitness today. Get to it. All right, now we're going to jump right back into the podcast. You'll hear Jesse talking about his motivation behind West London CrossFit testing.
Testing at West London CrossFit is typically a 2-week phase where we're going to be assessing our absolute strength numbers for main lifts, some speed strength numbers. So absolute strength being like total weight lifted, not taking into account body weight. Because CrossFit doesn't care how much you weigh, right? It doesn't matter. A speed strength thing being more like our weightlifting movements, power snatch, power clean, that sort of thing. Our gymnastics skill is a focus. Gymnastics density is a focus. It's like the amount of repetitions that you can do in the shortest amount of time. And our general conditioning stuff in all different energy systems. So I think this test phase.
So I have a quick naive question. So I've heard you mention before, I think it's the 10 modalities of CrossFit or something like that.
Yeah. There's 10 domains of fitness.
Are some of those ones you just mentioned included in that, or is that separate?
Yes,
separate variables.
They're included. So a lot of those domains of fitness is how you can structure a training program, but they're also testable elements as well.
Okay.
I don't, to be honest, I don't look at the 10 domains of fitness when I'm structuring a test phase. I like to go into a little bit more detail than that, and look at strength in different ways, look at capacity and like work capacity in different ways, and then test those things and make it repeatable over time.
Right.
Yeah. So that's like CrossFit has its definition and then it's 10 domains of fitness. But I think fitness as a whole is similar, but we can test it with a little bit more focus, right? Like test the elements a little bit better and not make it as broad. You know what I mean?
I think so, yeah. So as opposed to just kind of doing like the standard lifts, like the bench press, the back squat and all of that, you can actually maybe throw one of those into like a Metcon afterwards as well. Is that what you're getting at?
It's something like that. So CrossFit's definition is constantly varied high intensity, right? Functional fitness, it's performed at a high intensity across broad time and modal domains is like the definition. But that's the definition of a training modality. It's not a test.
Okay.
Right? So the open, for example. The open is a series of CrossFit workouts that fall under the umbrella of what that definition just said and the 10 domains of fitness, right? It fits that.
Okay.
But it doesn't make the best test of fitness all the time, right? What does make a good test of fitness is having a strength test, a power test, right? An aerobic capacity test, and have it all separate and allow those elements to be tested individually rather than have everything thrown together into a CrossFit workout and say that this is the only way that we can measure your fitness, because it's not. And is it the best way to measure fitness in the general public? Probably not, right? It's fun. It's fun to do CrossFit workouts, but it's not the best way to track progression over time because it's not always repeatable. It's unknown and unknowable, right? Like they'll throw a repeat workout into the open so you can track year to year how your fitness is improving in theory, but we don't know. The test phase at West London CrossFit and how I program for it is I want to know exactly how your 1 rep maxes are improving. So how's your strength improving? How's your nervous system recovering? How is your ability to recruit maximum number of muscle fibers possible in a single contraction? How is that working, right? How's that going? And then I want to see how can I explain this one? Your ability to repeat your efforts at like 100% intensity. So our fatigue repeatability test, right? I want to test your fitness in pieces so that you can see where you're improving rather than throw a general preparedness test at you and then see how you do. Right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
So the schedule at West London CrossFit, we go Monday, Wednesday, Friday for testing, and then we recover in between those days. It goes for 2 weeks. The purpose of this is because I do the programming for the gym, and if I'm just guessing, then I'm doing a disservice to our 180 to 200 members that we have at the gym, right? Every progression is planned out ahead of time on a year plan, and then broken down into smaller cycles to be sure that everybody's improving. It's something that I think is overlooked a lot in the CrossFit world. But I mean, can't really control that. So we just got to make sure that we're doing the best that we can at our gym to make sure that people are seeing progression and getting better. And then creating an environment for that to happen, right? The tough part with testing too, and kind of the feedback that I get every time with our members is like there's typically like 3 different people or 3 different responses, I guess, that I would get when I say, oh, testing's coming up, right? If I just end of a group class, hey guys, testing starting in a week and a half, I'll get typically 3 responses. One person's going to be super pumped, fist bump me and be like, yeah, man, I can't wait. One person's going to be like, you're the worst, I'm not ready. And then the third person's going to be like, well, I didn't know. Right? The first person is somebody that, again, going back to those 3 things, they've lived those 3 values, right? They've been committed, they've been honest, and they're showing integrity in their work. That's a choice that they've made. And they've also had the circumstances to allow that to happen, right? I'm not naive to the fact that people have a lot going on in their life. I like to over exaggerate each direction just to like be the devil's advocate and maybe stir the pot a little bit. So we have those people that have been 100% committed to the gym and their result and their consistency. Then that second group that says, I'm not ready, it's an insecurity thing because they don't feel like they've been training the amount that they could, or their nutrition hasn't been on point, or they're on vacation, whatever it was, right? There's a million different reasons why somebody could feel like they're not in the best shape or not prepared to do well. But frankly, when I'm planning out these cycles, I can't take that into
the testing
consideration.
comes at the exact same time every year, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be much of a surprise.
That's true. Yeah. But when I'm doing the cycles, I can't be like, oh, wait, Sally's going on vacation for 3 weeks in July, right? I can't put testing at the start of August because she's not going to be ready. When you do an individualized program design, that can happen. But when you're a member at a CrossFit gym following the group class programming, I can't take that into effect. I'm sorry. Then the last person be like, I didn't know. Those are the people that have been like gone for months, right? For whatever reason. Yeah. Being a student city, our population is, traffic is like tenfold what it was 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah. You can't get anywhere in the city without being stuck in traffic. And that happens like the very weekend that all the students come back. It's just complete chaos for a couple of weeks until everybody figures it out again. But those people, they have no control over that, right? But again, I can't take that into consideration when I'm planning out these cycles. I can't trust that their CrossFit gym at home, if they're continuing to train, is following the same sort of principles and integrity and the level of commitment that I'm putting into programming. I hope they do. And I like to make the assumption that everybody is, but I think that would be a little bit over positive, I guess, right? Like I don't think that really happens just from the feedback that I get from people when they come back. And I could trust that they were consistent in training when they were away, but I don't know, right? So why I always put it at the beginning of September is to tailor to all 3 groups, right? The group that has been working their ass off all summer long, they need to be rewarded for that. Right? They need to reap the benefits of their efforts and their consistency and their commitment to the plan. The second group, the group that's been on vacation or just inconsistent and whatever their excuse is, I don't really care. That group needs to get a reality check.
They need a fun little reminder.
Right? Like,
reminder.
Yeah. It's not to embarrass anybody. It's not to put anybody down, but it's that you need a reality check sometimes, right? If your back squat has gone down 20 pounds, but you haven't back squatted in 6 weeks, why did your back squat go down? It's pretty simple. And then for those people that have been gone, they're in other cities or gone for the summer, whatever, they're back now. And I would like to see them set baseline numbers at our gym so that they can see the progression that they can make on a proper program. Right? Like I don't want there to be any questions there. Right. And for me, once the test phase is done, I can go through Wodify and I can see who hit PRs, who didn't. Some people that have been at the gym for like 2-3 years, they're not going to hit a PR every single time, right? That's just the life cycle of an athlete. That happens. Those beginner people, I mean,
takes a long ass time. I think people always forget that, like especially when you're talking about like the big lifts, increasing the strength on those. That takes a long ass time to do.
totally. Yeah. And I mean,
unless you're 17 years old and recently went through puberty and you're like those people are gonna, they'll probably hit PRs. They might hit PRs every couple of months, but
right. And it might be like a 30-pound PR.
yeah,
it might
but
be ridiculous. Yeah.
like if you're done growing, if you're an adult, that takes a long time.
Yeah. And there's so many different factors to testing that I'll kind of talk about a little bit later. But I mean, for right now, just kind of using that as an example too, a big goal for people is to be able to do like a strict pull-up or strict chin-up.
Yeah.
But they've never been able to do one in their entire life, right? That's a reality for a lot of people. Now, is it realistic or is it good practice for me to tell this person that if they follow this progression for the next 10 weeks, then they will be able to do a strict pull-up? No, I can't. Right? And I'm not going to. And I've hurt some feelings saying that when they come to me like, I really want to hit a strict pull-up during this test phase. I have to look at them and say it's not going to happen, right? Because I can't lie to somebody and hold myself to that integrity, which is that third core value that I have in everything that I do, if I know that I'm lying to them. It'd be like I watched somebody back squat last week that did a heavy double at 150 pounds. And they're like, Jesse, I'm going to come to the gym and I'm going to hit a 300-pound back squat. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen. Not now. I'm not saying it's never going to happen if you continue to follow the process because you have no idea what's going to happen. But it's not going to happen right now. So how can we as a facility and how can us now, and like yourself included, you're started coaching at the gym now too, how can we provide an environment and a facility and a plan for these people that have a lifetime goal? Like if you get somebody a strict pull-up who's never been able to do a strict pull-up, have you seen that? A look on somebody's face that's done that?
I've seen it once or twice. It's the greatest thing.
It's bananas. Yeah. So much excitement, so much fulfillment, and that's what it's all about, right? Yeah. But we have to keep a realistic expectation for these people to keep them focused on the process and not on the result, because if we are like feeding into the results thing, people are going to start creating an association and identifying as a result. And if they don't get that result, then they're going to shut down completely. They're going to quit. They're going to walk away. They don't feel supported. They feel like they've been misled. And that is like the ultimate sin for a gym owner, a coach, a partner, anything, right? If you're giving somebody false hope or you're lying to somebody to protect yourself or to protect them, you're not doing them any favors, right? And I think that that's what we do a really good job of throughout the process of testing. And we can kind of segue into the emotion / mindset side of testing now, is that we have to be sure that we're nurturing the process for this person and not lying to them and telling them that everything's going to be okay. Sometimes things aren't going to be okay, right? We have to be honest about that. I think for the mindset thing, especially with people that have been at the gym for a while, a lot of times whether or not they hit a PR that day is just their approach on that day, right? It can be, I mean, sometimes you're just having a shitty day, right? When you come to the gym, you're like, oh man, I got a PR. It's like testing can be a stressful time for some people. It can be a not enjoyable time for some people. And the result will never really be what they were looking for, I guess, if that's the mindset that they have going in, that testing is a burden to them. That's always the trickiest part to navigate of the whole entire thing, right? Like writing the program, easy as pie. I get it. It's but the managing of emotions is just like, right? It's like, man, yeah. Because you're dealing with, now for me, like I'm not dealing with numbers and sequences and planning. I'm dealing with a human being, and fuck, we're complicated, man. Like, it's not that simple.
And the right thing to say to one person could be the complete wrong thing to say to another person.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you know that?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
I think it's one important thing, though, for people to remember is that kind of results mindset. No matter what level you're at, whether or not you're going for, maybe you're going for your first pull up, or you're trying to bang out a shit ton of pull ups in 1 minute, it's the exact same mindset. It's easy to focus on the result and just think, I want to do this now. I want this tomorrow, next week, right away. It's hard to it's hard to force yourself to realize that, okay, there's actually all this other little stuff that I have to do before this. So whether that is the first pull up or a bunch of pull ups, you have to do all that boring stuff in both scenarios, all the stuff that we don't want to do, whether it's all the little strengthening your core, strengthening the little tiny muscles in your shoulders, that kind of thing. That's what's going to lead to the big gains. And that's what a lot of people don't want to do, because it's hard to do that stuff. It's fucking boring.
Yeah.
You want the result right away. But so I think everyone, no matter what level they're at, needs to keep that in mind, that they're not the only ones that feel that way. That feeling is with everyone.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's that cheesy, like 1% better or 0.01% better every day or whatever it is, right? That graph that you see everywhere. Like, progress is progress, and whatever that looks like is any step in a positive direction. And I mean, again, we can't pretend that this is a perfect world and every single day you're going to get better, right? There's going to be maybe a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year where you feel like you're just like on a treadmill or on the hamster wheel, just spinning. But I think what we try to do as a facility, and I think like my intention when I'm coaching, when I'm programming, when I'm doing whatever in a conversation, I'm trying to facilitate that little improvement in any way that I possibly can, right? Whether that's a fist bump, whether that's going into a long conversation like we're having right now, trying to explain the whys of testing and why it's important to assess your fitness. As long as I feel good at the end of the day, as long as I was able to kind of just nudge somebody onto that, like 0.01% increase, right? Like whatever that is.
That's a success.
Yeah. I think that it helps me do what I do every day in terms of like just keep it fresh and stay passionate with things, because it puts it in perspective. That doesn't have to be a monumental increase every single day, right? Like I put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure that people get better, right? Like it is an obsession to me. I've gotten a little bit better at not obsessing over it, but as hard as I try, right, it's the same thing. I'm going through my own process, right? So I get like one step forward, I'm like starting to detach a little bit and just, I'm starting to see people improving in one way, and then something happens and I kind of feel like I'm going back a little bit, but that's my process. So I have to kind of allow that with people through testing at the gym as well, testing their physical numbers and their fitness, allow people to fail a little bit. Right? It's good, right? Like, oh, you didn't get that? Why? Why did that happen to you? Right? And you really need to look at the things that you were or weren't doing, the controllables, right? The internal things, the external forces that may have acted on that. We're complicated humans. It's not as simple as like black and white numbers on the chalkboard, but that's what I have to go off of when I'm planning a testing and when I'm planning a fitness cycle. I have numbers. And it's always been a struggle for me to deal with the human side of things. It's something that I constantly have to work on. But I think just having awesome members at the gym make that a lot easier, right? Like it's pretty easy to connect on a personal level with pretty much everybody that's at our gym. And I wouldn't say that about.
I don't say that about everyone, but I agree. That's how it is at the gym, man.
Yeah, it's a culture that's kind of been created, and I think people that really fit into that stay, and the people that don't fit into that leave. And I think both is good, right? Because if people are leaving because of whatever reason, then it wasn't for them, right? And it's hard it was hard for me to be okay with that at the start because you see it as a failure, right? See somebody leave your gym, you're like, fuck, right? Like, why'd they leave? What can we change? What can we do better?
Yeah.
It's like, we just need to keep doing what we're doing and do it really, really well.
Well, if you look at the percentages, that person was probably like a 1% kind of thing leaving. So,
right.
Yeah, 99% are leaving.
Yeah, for sure. Testing's just fun. It's so fucking fun to go to the gym for the next 2 weeks. It's the best time ever. The conversations are exciting. The gym has a buzz to it when the classes are going on.
Yeah, you definitely feel it when you walk in there. There's kind of that extra energy.
Yeah. And I hope that people that are testing their fitness and they see what consistency over time and effort can do for their fitness, they can kind of apply those same principles to their life in general, right? Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Fitness is just my way to help people. It's what I found that's worked again since I was 12. It's like coaching is something that allows me to feel fulfilled while also helping other people find fulfillment. And like the medium for that for me has always been fitness in some way, shape, or form. So that's probably what I'm going to do my entire life. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I just don't see myself doing anything else. And if people can apply what they learned doing a back squat, right, to how they treat somebody in traffic, right? Like, those are two completely different things, right? It's like they're not connected really in any physical way, but if we can show people patience and commitment to something in a back squat, maybe they're not going to freak out at something when they cut them off. Well, they're just going to be in a better mood, right? Yeah, right. Like totally. It's a whole. It's life. Fitness is the medium for us, and it's the only way that we can really impact somebody on a day-to-day from the gym. It's like an hour pocket of somebody's day, but if we can make that transformational in whatever way, say somebody's training in the morning, it doesn't have to be testing. We talked about testing, but it could be just like coming to the gym in the morning. It sets the tone for their entire day, how that hour goes, right? If they feel like they're supported, they're loved, people are paying attention to them, people care, and they also get that 0.01% better,
it's going to be a good day.
Gone. Flip side, somebody's coming in at night and their day's been complete shit. If they come to the gym and it continues to be shit, we did them a disservice. If they can come into the gym and it's like, oh man, I'm so happy to be here. My day's been shitty. This and that happened. If I just need to be a sounding board to like nod my head and say, oh yeah, and that makes them feel better because they can be like completely transparent with me and just let everything off their chest, then there we go. I also got better in that process, right? Because I feel fulfilled that I was able to help that person in that day. And that's why I'm never going to stop doing what I'm doing.
You don't see too many people in a bad mood there when you see them.
It's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's the odd one that they'll say they don't want to be there and that they're not enjoying themselves, but even those people, I think they're just saying that deep down. We know who we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like Instagram.
How so?
Because we only see the best of people.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's right.
But also in Instagram, I think maybe more like Facebook 2010, right? Where like people would just give you updates on their life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, things are going great. Got a new job. I want to thank blah, 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 blah. And then also like, R.I.P. grandma, right? Like you see like the best and you see like the worst, and we don't really see that middle part with people. But I think in seeing like the polarization of people's moods and stuff, we get a really good sense of who they are. And we can make an impact, whether it be like, again, like a fist bump or like a hug, right? If somebody needs that. It feels good that like people will come to the gym as like a safe place too. If they're really, really struggling. I've had a lot of people come to me and be like, hey man, I need to talk. It's like, okay, let's talk. And it's not me talking. It's just them telling me what they're going through, right? It's just a third party, somebody who's neutral. But I don't know. That's fitness.
No, good. How are we looking for time?
We're running low.
Yeah.
We're at 56 minutes.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All right. I know what we didn't touch on that we can wrap up in 4 minutes. I want to talk about the karate.
Okay.
So you're black belt in karate. So when's the last time you, I guess, actually trained that? And so, like, do you think if you kind of, I don't know what you call it. Do they call it rolling or sparring, or like, do you think if you were actually in that scenario again, it would just come back to you right away still?
So the last time I did a structured physical, like martial arts class was when I was 21. So when I was 18, I kind of quit the family karate thing, stopped teaching. Then I started going into stuff like a little bit more competitive things like kickboxing and judo and that sort of idea for a few years. But no, I don't think I remember a single thing. I think it's like riding a bike or like shooting a hockey puck in the sense that like I'd still be able to do it.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be good, Like,
yeah.
I definitely.
I'm sure though, in like a few weeks or a few months, you'd pick it up really, really quick. I'm sure.
Right.
I believe.
Yeah.
Because you learned it at such a young age, and I think things you learn at that age, they're there forever.
Yeah. You just kind of have that ingrained. I mean, all the brain side of that stuff, right? But, yeah, it would take a while for it to come back for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a good comparison to testing too. Just to kind of wrap it up, it's like if you were able to do pull-ups, if you were able to do this, like if you were healthy and active your entire life, it makes the process a little bit faster.
Right.
Whereas if you haven't been physically active and things like that, the patient just has to be there for a little bit longer, right? Because you can't.
Yeah.
You don't have those networks and those connections already set. It's something you're creating brand new things.
Right, yeah. But we can still learn things, people, forever, your entire life, until you're old. Even in your 90s, you can still learn stuff. It just takes a little bit longer.
We can do it. Just gotta stay patient. All right, that was. We got the red line here. We got 1 minute left. That was a scattered, crazy, all over the place conversation.
I think that'll help people kind of give us an idea of who we are.
Yeah.
Understand us a little more.
Yeah, I think like fitness is just, and health and wellness for us is just kind of our medium to connect with people. It's something that we're passionate about, and we have a knowledge base of and experience in. And I think I can speak for myself only, but I think that's why I want to do this, is just to have a sounding board for that and hopefully help at least one person.
Ditto.
Boom.
Yep.
Peace.
Thank you very much, guys, for tuning into this week's episode of the Fitness Experiment Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we really enjoy putting these on for you guys. If you liked it, please give us a 5-star review, share it with your friends, family, anyone who you think would also enjoy this. We both like Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at brainignition_Chet or at my website, brainignition.ca. You can find Jesse on Instagram at Sheriff Academy. In the next couple of weeks, we have some more super cool episodes coming out for you guys. We talk about more of the mindset and motivation behind fitness, why this is important for overall health, life experiences. Another episode, we talk about the hormonal response to training, and another episode where we go over some of the most popular supplements, what works, what doesn't. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great week.